We're very excited to have you here, and each one of you here tonight probably could come up and tell a story about something with the Highlands Center that you were involved with. And it's just a great lineage of kind of a chain reaction of folks, and that's what we're going to live today. And, you know, the Highlands Center dates back, way back. We were guessing maybe, we were celebrating our 25th anniversary, but the roots of this organization go back maybe almost 50 years now. And we're happy to have Steve Walker with us. He's going to be our first speaker.
Thank you, Dave. Hello, friends. I want to start by recognizing my date for tonight. My mother, Iris Walker, seated right over there. We're here to celebrate the 25th anniversary of the Highlands Center, but actually this project goes back almost 50 years to when my dad, Dr. Ken Walker, replaced Abaya Judd as PUSD Superintendent of Schools. He was given a number of priorities by the board, but one of the highest priorities was to find land and build a second middle school. And so they looked around and they found that property north of Iron Springs Road along Williamson Valley. It was too big a parcel, really. It was more than what was needed to build Granite Mountain Middle School. But he talked with the board and they decided to buy the whole thing. So before that, my dad was a superintendent of schools near Kansas City, and he wrote a couple of grants, got the funding, and built an environmental education outdoor laboratory for his district there in Kansas. And now with the excess land in Prescott, he thought maybe that would be a good idea to do with the remainder of the land that the school district purchased. So I think Henry's going to touch on the details of that, but basically they did establish the center, the Outdoor Learning Lab, and fortunately for everybody, Henry Dahlberg stepped up and became the director of that facility and developed the environmental education and outdoor learning curriculum for that facility. Now fast forward to the early 1990s. I was the Natural Resources and Planning Staff Officer for the Prescott National Forest. And among my responsibilities was oversight of environmental education programs for the forest. And we noticed that after almost 15 years, the outdoor lab at Granite Mountain Middle School was being underutilized. And so we went and met with then Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Jim Howard, about the possibility of a programmatic and financial partnership between the National Forest and the school district to revitalize the center and open it to the public. And Jim enthusiastically agreed with the idea, and basically at that point the Community Nature Center was born. And we established it as a nonprofit. We established a board. I served as president of that board. It was made up of forest officers, school district personnel, and interested citizens. And we developed a simple little strategic plan. And number one on that plan was to hire the first ever paid executive director. And the person we hired was Nicole Trishell. So after she came on board, we started having these discussions about outgrowing the little center there at Granite Mountain Middle School and moving it under some sort of special use arrangement with the Prescott National Forest, preferably somewhere like Lynx Lake. Around that same time, I left the U.S. Forest Service, moved my family to Austin, and went to work in international land and wildlife conservation with BCI and the Nature Conservancy. Now fast forward again to the fall of 2006. Imagine our delight when Denise and I moved back after being in Austin for 13 years to find that the Highlands Center board and staff had successfully completed a capital campaign and built the beautiful facilities that we enjoy there at HCNH. Just tremendous. So that was fall 2006, around 2008, I joined the Highlands Center board after it had been renamed. And it wasn't long after that Nicole announced that she was going to be leaving her position to pursue other endeavors. And so the Highlands Center board established a search committee under the leadership of Dan Campbell. I served on that search committee along with a number of others. We actually put out a nationwide search because we knew we were looking for a very special person to come in and lead the next phase of the Highlands Center. We got a lot of applications, and I remember meeting at Dan Campbell's office and going through those applications, and we agreed at the end there wasn't a winner in the bunch. And so we were disappointed, went back to the drawing board of sorts, and then the next morning I got a call from Dan and said, there's one more application that has come in just under the wire. Go online and take a look at that resume. It was Dave Irvine of Cuyahoga, Ohio. Couldn't have been better. Needless to say, how fortunate to have two executive directors over the course of 30 years. First with the Community Nature Center and then with the Highlands Center for Natural History. That very fortunate. So in closing, I feel a little bit like Forrest Gump as it relates to this project over the last 47 years, but that's a good thing. And I've played a very minor role along the way, but I'm very grateful to have been involved. And I congratulate all of you who have worked tirelessly to educate thousands of children and adults over almost 3 decades. Thank you very much.
And as we go chronologically ahead, so the Community Nature Center was established, and who was going to step up and run the thing for the first time? And that man was Mr. Henry Dahlberg, who not only did it then and is still doing it today.
This is a great group of folks. Thank you so much for what you've done over the years to create that magnificent facility out there. So they asked me to talk about something that happened 50 years ago, and I was quite young, and I can hardly remember, but the main details were the 20 acres on the north side of the parcel that was purchased for the junior high and also for the 5th elementary school. Interesting, the school district at that time was building buildings, not selling buildings. But that 20 acres was very rough, and the board said, let's sell that. Some developer will put some houses on it and make some money, and we'll make some money. And that's when Dr. Ken Walker stepped forward and said, I know how nature centers work. I have experience in Kansas, and I think this would make a great nature center. And I think I know where we can get the money to fund the development of the center. And this was the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, Title III, Innovative Programs. And I was asked to write the proposal. I had worked with the Youth Conservation Corps the previous summer, and the proposal was funded, which I was happy about, but of course Dr. Ken Walker was the chairman of the Title III selection board, which helped a great deal in getting this done. At any rate, the rest is, as they say, history. I really feel that without the Dr. Walker, we would not have the Nature Center, and without the Nature Center, we would probably not have Nicole, and without Nicole, we would probably not have the Highlands Center. So it's really to his credit to make that decision to turn that property into a beautiful nature center. He would be so pleased to know that last year there were 13,000 student visits at the Community Nature Center. So thank you very much. We'll turn this over to Nicole, a student of mine at the high school. I was, again, quite young at the time, but she's a sweetie, and who would have thought 50 years later we're still buddies.
We're still friends. Good friends. I just want to first say that it's just so wonderful to see all your faces and see people that were here with me, and that I am so touched that so many of you have stayed over all this time. Obviously, from the two people you just heard, we were standing on some great pillars of environmental education when I started. And some people that haven't yet been mentioned, I want to mention. One's Carl Tomoff, who was involved at the Community Nature Center and helped with our early docent program, which we thank you for, Carl. And also in that transitional period from Nature Center to, I guess, a more nonprofit version of our reality, Faith Roloffs was one of the people that was very instrumental in that, who's here today. There were others, but Faith was there when I got there. And she had already helped create, along with Carl and the docents, a fledgling second grade program. And it was from that foundation that I was able to grow our center. I had to figure out how to be a teacher of little kids because I was a field biologist and hadn't really done a lot of teaching of children, but here was already a great model in place for us to grow from. And grow we did. We grow very quickly through those early years of growing not only the attendance of kids, which went from just Prescott Unified School District to Chino Valley Schools and Prescott Valley Schools. We also added a fourth grade program for kids. We added a summer event called Wander the Wild, which is not your current Wander the Wild. They stole my name. But we had a summer program where families were outside learning, and we tried to make money at it, but we didn't make a lot of money, but we had a great time with Wander the Wild. So a lot was going on with expanding our docent program, expanding our programs. And somewhere along the line there, I realized that I needed help. I had great volunteers, but I applied for a grant and got it to have a mentor come from another environmental education organization, Palm Desert, California, the Living Desert Museum. Karen Sossman, who was the founding director there, came and spent 2 days with me at the Nature Center, looked at our programs, looked at our plans, and said, you need to become a separate nonprofit and you need to move. And I said, well, move where? And she had developed her center on BLM land in California. And it was really Karen that put the idea of working with the Prescott National Forest, because we had this great partnership with Steve Walker, who spoke, Dwayne Warwick, who I was hoping would be here today, to develop this partnership to find us a spot to grow to. I proposed this idea to our board. I think they thought I was crazy. Tom Benson in particular thought I was crazy. But Tom was also my greatest cheerleader as we went forward. And we used their basement to form the Highlands Center for Natural History, Tom and Lois' basement. And many of you that are here were there as well. One of the things I did as we were thinking about a new site was I drove around the Prescott National Forest with Malcolm Hamilton. And I know that Mike remembers Malcolm, of course, but Malcolm and I got in the Forest Service truck and started driving around the Prescott National Forest looking for great Highlands Center sites. And we did decide to call it Highlands Center for Natural History, and I want to defend that choice because natural history is different than just saying nature. Natural history implies participation. It implies our participation in looking at the natural world. And I feel like that's a critical piece. We talked about calling it Highlands Center for Nature. I think that was Robert Burford's idea. And then we finally changed it to natural history. Anyway, back to looking for the site. I used to go out to Lynx Lake as a kid and swim. I did, in Lynx Lake, as did, I bet, Steve Walker and Kelly Cordes. And we also went down below the dam because it was so fun. And when I was driving around with Malcolm, I remembered that. It was a beautiful spot below the dam. And so when we went out there, out Highway 69, drove, 2 miles, I used to know this stuff, to that area, it really clicked that that was our spot. And through a process I don't need to get into of public participation, working with the Forest Service, we decided on that place because it was so ecologically diverse and reflective of the diversity of the Highlands for us, and close to Highway 69, close to the growth of the area, and still had that feeling of being in the woods. Well, at this point then, we have someone showed up, Mike King, about then. And I have to tell a story, and he probably's going to blush. But I went into, he called me into his office, yes, and he said, "Why do we need you?" In his typical flippant kind of way. And I said, "Because we do what you should be doing, but don't." I walked out of his office, saw Malcolm, and told him what I had said, and his face kind of dropped. And as it turned out, it was probably the right thing to say to Mike, given his personality. And we became great friends and worked together. He hired Ernie Del Rio, who many of you worked with at the Highlands Center, a great selection, I would add, and also worked with Doug Vandergaan, who was our permit administrator who has passed now, but he was also a great support of our whole program. We were at this point in time, and Mike and I talked about this just a little bit ago, where everything lined up perfectly. We found the place, we built the trust, we had a great relationship with the Forest Service. We had funders like the James family stepped up. We had creative architects in Robert Burford and Matt Ackerman to participate in the development of the site. And I had the most amazing volunteers that were like family to me. One piece, though, I have to say is I might have had the best staff anyone could ever have. And some of them are here today in Fiona and Cindy. Where's Cindy? Right there at the table, and Lisa and Mary. Those people I leaned on heavily as we made our way down this path, and it was so important to me. I also had the support of Steve Morgan, who isn't here tonight, and my children, who were volunteers at the very first versions of Wander the Wild, painting faces and making crafts. It's my kids, though, to get kind of close to my closure on all of this. It was really my kids over the years of watching how important just being outside was in their life. I did not cram science down, their throats. I did not make them learn the names of everything. But what we did as a family, being outside so much, was they fell in love with the natural world. Both of them became biologists. My son's a doctor, and you guys all know Mara because she, after I left, became first habitat coordinator and then education director. So to me, I wanted to give that same gift to lots of children. I feel like every child deserves a time to be outside in the woods. And that is some of what the Highlands Center does that's so important, I think. And I thank you all for continuing with that. Before I close, I have to tell you a story of the offices we lived in, because I think it speaks to our path. We had an office, my first office was in the cabin, which wasn't not warm in the winter. So I moved into an office in the Granite Mountain Middle School, which we all know leaks. And Henry, I think, might have been in that office also, and Carl, perhaps. And then we moved to the district office for a while, to Robert Burford's old building on Cortez Street. We were kind of crammed, and the office was leaking at the Granite Mountain Middle School. So Cindy had the idea that we should move to the mall, which we did. And that we were really odd ducks, I would say, at the mall, but we had a lot of great coffee and bread at the mall. We got kicked out of the mall, and I am serious. We got kicked out of the mall, and the buildings weren't done because everything always takes longer than you expect. So Cindy, again, had the idea of construction trailers. So we moved to the new site with the beautiful building being built, and we're in construction trailers. Linda Wolf was in those trailers as well, waiting for the building to be completed before winter, but it was not. So then we couldn't be in the construction trailers anymore. Cindy, Fiona, and I in particular met at coffee shops, Hacienda. Where else did we go? Just to keep the Highlands Center afloat. So anyway, that's a little story of the path to the bumpy path to the new buildings. I actually was only in those new buildings 1 year. It was in 2007 that I realized my skill set was coming to a close. And one of the things about founding directors is we have an expiration date, and I knew mine had arrived. And also there was the call of the Gila National Forest for me. And living in a tiny 30-person town and exploring the wilderness is right up my alley. And I was lucky enough to get to go live there. I would end by saying that we had a remarkable coming together of things that really make a difference. We brought together diverse entities of like the United Way and the Forest Service and local service clubs, all volunteers from all different kind of belief systems, and to this beautiful entity that I would say nature unifies us. And I saw that in all of your faces over time, in all the people I spoke to, into the thousands of kids' eyes that we saw come and go over time. And even most importantly, in the kids that come, and we've all had them, my favorite stories are always the teacher would show up and they'd say, okay, you see that kid right there? You're going to have trouble. And I'd say, give him to me. And by the end of that time with the child, they would be my star in the group, because there's something that we could give them that they weren't finding in their everyday school career that is really important for children. Now, I did all that without notes, but I have to say something carefully. Yeah, and that's kind of hard for me. Anyway, what I wanted to end by saying is that we will never know how many naturalists we inspired, how many people became scientists because of visiting the Highlands Center and the Community Nature Center. But what we do know is that we've made a difference in people's lives. We know that without question, the Highlands Center brings wonder, inspiration, joy, and healing to people that visit. We may not know what kind of mark we make on this planet, but we do know that. I see it in all of your faces sitting around here in this space right now. And the other thing I know is that this was a really good idea because it's still here and it's still going without me, and that is a measure of success. And we know that Dave came, and it is remarkable that there's only been 2 directors in all this time, and that he's had great staff work. He's kept many people involved, brought a lot of new people in, And that's all something to be really proud of. And I thank all of you for each and every one of your parts in keeping this vision alive. So thank you for coming. It's great to be here. Love all you guys.
My name is Mike. I am an ogre. I am a bump in the speed for which Nicole wanted to bring forward. She brought it up. But you know what? Humility is truth, and truth is humility. I don't know if I said those words, but you know what? It gives me a chance to defend myself a little bit. The Forest Service was not noted for environmental education. I knew that. I had 25 years worth of experience before I ever got to this town. And when somebody comes in and says they want to be part of environmental education and you're not doing very well at it, you've got to get the right people. You've got to play to your niche. And the people here today and all that came before us played to their niche. Their passion, their education, their energy, their finances, their time, their talent, you all know, and you're part of that legacy that we all share today. If I said, what can you do for us? It was just a test. It was just to be flippant, and we both talk about our personalities. I was in Idaho before I came here, and I remember I had a big meeting with outfitter guides, and we were making a decision on horse use in the wilderness. And we had worked with a guide, the whole industry, on these new ways to deal with minimum impact horse use in wilderness. And there was a lot of dissension because the people that represented them did not represent the whole group of outfitters. And so I stood up and said, hey, we worked with you in a partnership. We had good intentions of working together. Now it didn't work. So I'm going to stand at the door when you walk out, and I want you to kick my ass. I'm telling you, the real truth. And not one person did, because I told the truth. But I also told the truth in a sense of humor. Nobody would took that. But you know what? 20 years later, I ran into a guy on a fire, and he says, I'll never forget your quote and your humility and how we can still work this through. Even in times of trials and tribulations, we can always find solutions if you have that attitude. This culture of this community is about cooperation and working together. And you're one of the best examples of that in the in the education field, but all of what you do and what you bring to the table. Yesterday was the 20th anniversary of the start of the Indian Fire. I was at the city council yesterday. What were the lessons learned? Here's 25 years about signing the permit. April and May are pretty big years, months around here as far as history. But anyway, the whole thing was about cooperation and how well we work together, how well we play together, how much we respect each other's mission, and how our niches are best played out by our team. Each person and each group plays their own position, and they play it well. And we're all part of this. We're a team. We're us. Thank you for what you do to educate. Thank you for what you do to manage that facility as a great example. It's nationally known. I'm so proud to be a part of it, even though I was a speed bump along the way. God bless you all.
I think we have a special performance coming next, and I'll share a little story. When I came out here to interview for this job 15 years ago, they brought me in, gave me a whirlwind tour of Prescott. But the highlight of that whole weekend experience was seeing the volunteers and meeting the volunteers and getting to see the puppet shows for the Highlands Center. And one of the songs that they maybe sung here tonight, I think, was one of the songs that I used early in my career at another organization that I worked for. So that experience with the puppets and the song made me know that this was the right place for me to join the history of.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dirt. You can call me Topsoil, but never, never, never call me plain old Dirt. I'm here to remind you and take you back to your Highland Center. If you remember the majestic pines, the beautiful bushes, the beautiful spring grasses. That is what I do. I made it all 'cause I'm dirt. In fact, I'm so important, they made a song about me. Dirt made my lunch. Dirt made my lunch. Thank you, dirt. Thanks a bunch for my salad, my sandwich, my milk, and my munch. Dirt, you made my lunch. Hey, I told you it was all about me. Oh, I think I forgot about something. At the beautiful Highland Center, it's not just about me, it's about you. You made this place. You made this place. Thank you all for setting the pace. Gave me time and talent and treasure and grace. Yes, you made this place. Yay! Founders!
And after seeing a puppet show, I just had to be here, like I said. And the tradition continues with our puppeteers, the Highland Center puppeteers. The next thing we were supposed to have tonight was an interpretive dance by Belle Coleman. And when we had to change the venue, there just wasn't enough room for her to make the trip to give that performance. And the performance was going to be in honor of those people who played instrumental roles in the development of the Highland Center that are no longer with us. That has passed on from this place and made huge contributions while they're here. So I just want to take a minute to recognize a couple of them and maybe give you a chance to reflect on that yourself, of who is missing from this gathering that would have loved to be here tonight. Chris Coleman is one of them. Chris was a key board chair in the history of this organization. From what I understand, and Nicole can correct me if I'm wrong here, but he sort of was elected vice president with, when you're just vice president, you really don't have to do very much because you're vice president. So he agreed to it, and then shortly thereafter, the president resigned and for personal reasons, and he sort of became the president. And then shortly after that, Nicole decided that, she was ready for something else. And shortly after that, he had to go and help recruit a new executive director and bring that person all the way across the country and work with that new executive director with a staff that was also going through major transitions as well because they were missing their leader, Nicole, and had to adapt to a new leader, me. And that's always in any organization a key, pivotal, most important time. And Chris's leadership and his, more than even his leadership, his personality, his gentle spirit, his compassion, his listening ability to everybody was instrumental in that transition. And I'm sure if he was with us today, he would say, no, that he didn't do anything. But he did a lot just by being the gentle, but yet present and assertive leader that he was. And I know Nicole will say this, he was our friend as well as our boss, if you would say that, as chairman of the board. And so Chris's family is with us here today on the table over here, and we're glad that you could join us and honor him in that way, and we miss him. The other person I want to especially remember is one more of our recent board chairs, Toby York. And Toby took the leadership of the Highland Center when we were going through the planning stages and development stages of the James Family Discovery Garden. And we were having a couple kind of challenges, bumps in the road, if you will, in that process. And he came on to the board and became chair, and was just a light of shining brilliance, actually, in his approach, and helped us kind of work through all those challenges and create a really special place. And we lost Toby a couple years back, very too young. And both Chris and Toby we lost way too young. They really should have been here with us tonight. And Toby got me through some challenging times, and was my kind of right hand, my partner, and going through those challenging times together. So I miss them both, Chris and Toby, and I'm sure there are many others that we can think of that played instrumental roles. So why don't we just maybe take a moment of silence and just remember those spirits who were with us at just the right time to develop this place. And thank all of you. I thank you all, because all of you could come up here and tell stories. We could be here till midnight, I'm sure, and have every person here who has a specific story and a moment in time to share about the Highlands Center. You know, the bottom line is we don't even know how many kids have been impacted by coming to the Highlands Center over the years. Our record keeping sometimes has been a little faulty, but we can guess tens of thousands of kids, and probably 1 million visitors. We try to count the visitors that come in. It is a popular place now. I remember the days when I first came here, and we would look out at the parking lot and say, gosh, I wish some people would come, And today we go out there weekdays, weekday mornings, the weekends, and the lot is quite full, and lots of people heading out on the trails. So you've all impacted countless people, as Nicole has said, more than we will ever know, through your generosity. And one of the analogies we use a lot for the Highlands Center is the analogy of the tree, the juniper tree, the beautiful logo that Nicole and staff came up with so many years ago that has served us so well. The analogy tonight that we're celebrating are the roots of that tree, the beginning roots that got it all going and kept it all growing and began that wonderful start. And all of you too most of you are not only members, but you're donors, and you've contributed so much over the years. I like to say that's the rain. You are the rain that has watered the roots and watered those branches and helped them grow. And it's a great organization. It's a great story. And we're not done. That tree is not done growing yet. It's not even to middle age yet. And it will continue to grow long after the rest of us are no longer, here. We're kind of in that been here kind of mode. And but it will go on. That's our goal, and the organization will go on. It will grow, and it will thrive into the future. And that tree will keep growing. So thank you so much. I also want to give a special shout out to Leslie Allward today, who's my chair of my development committee, who helped organize this event. And Leslie's not only a past chair, but also chair of the current Wonder the Wild fundraising event, and has done that for many years as well. But there are so many others that we could recognize tonight too. And I thank you, and thank you for coming and being part of this celebration. And you're welcome to stay a little bit longer, enjoy the rest of the food that's back there, and keep making those acquaintances once again, and keep the story going. Thanks so much.